Once again, what a pleasure to catch up with our pal, Bob Gallant. He is amazing with this book, Rob the Vatican. And if you might notice, for everybody listening, look at my cool t-shirt. Wow. Rob the Vatican.
Great
I
for
love
you.
it.
Yeah, she's matching my t-shirt.
I love this shirt. I do. What a smart idea. And the cover of this book too, Rob the Vatican. So I want everybody to be able to see this. You can see it right here, and you can see it also behind Bob, just over his shoulder, because it's a great reminder. So many of you will contact me and ask me, where can I pick up the book? And there it is right there. It's really easy to see.
Yes, right
And
here.
Kindle.
RobertGallantBooks.net.
Rob Gallant, boom, easy to find, very easy. All right, so Bob, let's talk about this because people are fascinated about the Vatican. Why do you think, first of all, why do you think we're so fascinated about by the Vatican, and why did you zero in on a story that's centered around the Vatican?
Yeah, well, the Vatican is probably the most famous building, certainly in Europe. The Vatican is the most famous one, probably the whole world. It's the center of one of the major religions, and it also has more treasures there than any place else. When I was thinking to myself, if you could rob any place, where would you rob? And I said, I'm going to rob the Vatican. Then I took a look, and nobody had ever even written about it. And I said, why is that? And everybody said, it is absolutely impossible to rob. And I said to myself, well, I spent over 40 years in technology and business, and time and again, we would say, oh, if we could do this, and there's a, but that's impossible. And then you say, okay, let's figure out why it's impossible and how we get around it and how do we do it. So this one turned out to be a real challenge because I spent 5 years hunting for how am I going to rob this place? And I was down to, I had one peg that I couldn't fill in. And just one day I look at something that sounds kind of innocuous. And it was the Vatican does not have to pay Italian sales tax on any of their merchandise that they ship in or ship out of the Vatican. Now that didn't sound like, what's that got to do with robbing the place? But you're going to have to read the book to find out why, because that was the final link that led me. I now know how to actually rob the Vatican. Now I got to decide whether I want to rob it or write about it.
And you wrote about it, and I love that. Yeah. So it's like you said, you knew that it was like a puzzle, and because of your career, and when people would say, oh, we can't do that, it's a challenge, it was a challenge to you. So you like challenges. Now you know you want to write about the Vatican, you do all that footwork, you find the final peg. How do you create the characters and decide what's going to work with the characters?
It's the same when you're trying to do something impossible. You got to have some people who are talented enough to make it happen and who can go hunt for, how do I overcome the obstacles so I can do this? And I went through this dozens of times during my career, getting people like that. And so when I got to the point of, okay, who has to be good enough? Well, this guy has to be not just a typical robber that, breaks through a window to do something. He has to be somebody who has been all over Europe, making it a nightmare for places because he's figuring out how to get into the most sophisticated, guarded places. He does it to such a perfection and just disappears. And people say, what happened to him? I thought we had him. And so he's the ideal one to do it. And then you couldn't just have a simple story where you're going to rob it. You've got to have other people that are important parts of the story. And the young gymnast became the second most important person. In fact, the first time I started to write it, I was making a priest the keeper. And then I said, no, it's got to be the thief, the guy that's robbing the place, because people got to walk along beside him while he's saying, okay, if that's true, then all right, I can but then And so the story has to be told through his eyes. And as soon as I did that, it got dramatically better. I said, all right, this is good. And I'd already benefited from the fact that my wife had, on the first novel I wrote, Satan's Stronghold, when I finished it, I gave it to her and said, would you read this and critique it, because you're a big reader of women's mystery novels and you're very good on that. And she came back to me and she said, if you are going to have a significant woman in this story, do not make her dependent upon some manly hero. She has to be able to significantly impact the results of the story. So I ripped that up. And in addition, she told me, and an artist paints pictures with a brush. A writer paints pictures with words. You need to write words that your reader is walking side by side with the character. They're seeing everything the character is seeing, and so forth. And so, while that was on the first one, I applied that same principle to rob the Vatican, and the result of it was this award from Hollywood Book Reviews, which they gave it the Star Award for books of excellent merit. And I was told there are only a few of these ever issued by this company. They really make it tough. And I want to read you a few of the things they said, because it was so well. Think about a heist, not just any heist, but a heist of the highest order. Our author, Robert Gallant, has envisioned theft from one of the richest entities of all time, the Roman Catholic Church, of fabled treasures within the Vatican itself. Not only has he visualized it, he's brought it to pulse-pounding life on the pages of this high-octane thriller that is as intelligent as it is exciting. Now that made me say, all right, that's good. Then went on to say, not content to simply depict an incredibly involving robbery, Gallant has also spiced his story with fascinating characters and compelling subplots. There is an almost encyclopedic quality to his descriptions of the Vatican's environment, their security operations, and the innumerable holdings of the Holy See. These depictions brim with authenticity. And I said, Margie, we got it. We got it. We got it.
I love that. I love that it brim with authenticity, because I think in our conversations, that's what I really get from you. So what a high compliment. That means in your writing, you are doing the very same thing. And what an incredible thing to tackle. Like we said, rob the Vatican. You can see it behind Bob where you can get it really easy. Amazon, of course. You can go to Robert's website, Robert Gallant Books. And go there and you can get a copy of that as well. In finally wrapping this up, when you wrapped up the book, you took all those years, 5 years, you come up with the final peg, you've got the characters, you're excited, they're authentic. What did it feel like to you, Bob, when you wrapped it up? When you got your first copy of this book, what was that like?
It was just pure excitement, because I actually sat down and I reread it cover to cover, and I said, all right, it does. It gives them, this one person told me, you saved me thousands of dollars because I bought your book. I was going to fly over to Rome and take a tour of the Vatican. And after I read your book, I realized I got a better tour than any tour guide is going to give me. I know more about the Vatican now. I don't need to make the trip. And so I felt real good over that.
In putting it together. And, in putting this Vatican book together, I do want to say it's worth telling other people this. Look at the treasure trove this man has of books. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
This is amazing. Look at this side. So I know you're going to fall in love with Bob and his book, Rob the Vatican, but you got some more reading to do. This is what everybody always asks me what I'm reading. This is on my nightstand now. I am vowing to get through the rest of these awesome books too as well.
On Satan's Stronghold, the first one that I wrote, again, Margie's capabilities came through because when they did their reviews, they said a amazing woman protagonist battles the dangers of the swamp and dangerous men. And said, boy, a lot of stars for that. And also said, when you go through this, you learn so much about that swamp. You think you've been walking through it. And he said, in fact, the swamp becomes a main character in the story. So I said, because that's what I want. Every story I write to be a page turner, but when they finish, they say, wow, I learned about something I didn't know about. And I have a knowledge now that really makes a difference to me.
Right. And I think in summing this up, that's it. When you walk away, you feel great because it's a page turner, you can't put it down. And then you also feel like you learned something. What a high compliment that, hey, I don't have to go to the Vatican because Bob told me all about it. So in wrapping this up, that's what you hope the reader comes away with, right? All the people that are seeing this and that they go and get your book, that they have that feeling.
Yes, and it's going to be a feature at the Germany Frankfurt International Book Show, which starts the 10th of this month and goes through the 14th. And it's going to be one of the featured books there because of its reputation. And 4 of my other books are going to be on display there. So that's exciting.
That is exciting. So in telling people, remember Rob the Vatican, you can go to Amazon.com. You can also look for Bob's other books as well. You can go to his website. Robert Gallant, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's only taken me 65 years since I first thought I wanted to be an author, because in the 10th grade, taking biology, I said, wow, wouldn't it be great to be able to go into the body and actually see all this stuff? So I had myself swallowed by a giant serpent and ended up in the stomach, and an antibody came along and he said, what are you doing here? And I said, I want to see what it looks like in here. He said, okay, I'll tour you around. And so I had 60 pages handwritten of the adventures of going through the human body and the adventure we'd have at each place. And ironically, that approach is what I use today. It's going to be an exciting, adventurous story, and you're going to learn something very useful to you.
Which is definitely the key. Bob, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. It's a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And again, here it is. Look, da-da-da-da, my shirt. Yeah, we both have it matching, so go and get it. Thanks so much, Bob.
Bye.
Bye-bye.